Okay, back again with Pearl Feldman and an amazing life. Okay, Pearl, let's talk about this singing gift that you have and how it represents maybe a complete turnaround, or doesn't it? Why don't you tell me about that?
Well, Eliyahu, um, when I was 3 years old, my mother forced me into doing dancing, which I wasn't very happy about, because all I wanted to do was sing.
Okay.
And it took me a couple of months, and I'd persuaded my mother to get me. I agreed. I will dance for you if you get me singing lessons.
Okay.
And she took me to a woman who had a studio, a singing studio, in the same building where I used to go dancing. And the song at the time was "You Are My Sunshine, My Only
A
Sunshine."
very famous song.
That was when I was a young child.
Oh, we all know that song.
Yeah.
I think.
And I knew the song off by heart, and I loved singing it. And she took me to this teacher, and she said, "My daughter wants to sing." And I remember standing there so proud and so happy. I mean, this is what I really want. And I started singing the song. And I observed this woman, and she put her hands
my
on
goodness.
her ears, and she looked at me with as though I was doing something terrible.
Oh my
She
goodness.
says, "Take this child away, she can't sing." And I closed down. I stopped singing. I went right through school pretending, mouthing the words. Every time we were forced to be in choir, no sound ever came out of my throat. And when I started doing meditating groups, I was in a very special group where we used to sing to build up the energy.
Yeah.
And every time I started making sounds, my best friends and all my wonderful people would say to me, "Pearl, just don't sing." And I spent more time mouthing, but I really wanted to sing. And I mentioned the time that I was in Kripalu Yoga Center, and I had the access to some of the most amazing workshops.
Where is that, in New York?
No, it's in Massachusetts,
Okay.
right near where the Boston Pops Orchestra is. Sometimes if it was a quiet night, we could hear the music.
Okay.
And I got to do a free workshop with a woman from talking about the native the black spirituals in South Africa, and there was a group that they formed called Honey on the Rocks or something,
Okay.
and there were 80 people in the room, and of course we all had to sing, and I wasn't going to sing, I was mouthing, but this woman was very clever because she knew what I was doing, and she called me out into the middle of the room with 80 people. It was a 2-day workshop. It was amazing. And we learned about the spirituals and the whole way of singing these beautiful songs. And it was wonderful, but I didn't ever sing. And she said, "Okay, Pearl, you sing." And of course I couldn't. And I couldn't.
Aye.
And she made me stand in front of her until she got me to sing. And I can't tell you, I mean,
Aye.
I can't, and I swore I'd never sing again. But I don't know how it started. I'm getting old, so I remember parts of my stories, and I don't always remember the whole one. Oh yeah, I did a workshop here in Israel, where you had to write your own song and sing, and you were taken through it with music. But before that, of course, I met Jean and John,
Yes.
who used to come and sing for peace
Yes.
here in Israel,
Still come.
and they still come. But it was really amazing because we used to have these peace concerts.
I remember.
And I didn't do much singing actually, but over the years somehow I started sounding, and maybe now
Not maybe. Pearl, it was it was operatic what you were singing. It had,
Well,
it was
oh,
amazing.
oh, okay. So now I remember. When I was in this group with May Hammer, and we were singing,
Yeah.
I started feeling that sounds would come out of me, but it wasn't from my throat.
Okay.
Sounds would come from my belly. And I got to a point where nobody really complained that much
Okay.
until I started working with Jean and John.
Okay.
And I find that the sounds come through me, but they still don't come from my throat. I know that I'm a channel for whatever sounds come.
Whoa. But opera singers, they don't sing from their throat. They sing from their belly.
I didn't know that.
Well, that's what I've come to understand, and I've heard it. And
No, I definitely feel that there's a part of me that has been created where the sounds come from.
certainly it's totally new. I knew you in the old days, and where you wouldn't sing, or you would sing under great protest.
Definitely.
And it's shocking, frankly, but everything about you is totally amazing, Pearl, especially how you're getting around. So tell me about the dances of Jean and John.
Well, I have to go back before the dances.
Go ahead.
And I have to go back to a wonderful meeting that we had in your house.
Probably-
I think we were 40 people. There were a lot of us.
We've had a lot of meetings
But this one was a peace pipe ceremony
with Jean
with
and
Jean
John.
and John.
Oh, I remember that one.
And Jean,
I'll never
Jean
forget
was
that one.
given a pipe which she came to Israel with, and we kind of tested it out in that ceremony. And I
That's
can't
right.
explain it. The whole evening was something not of this world. The connection, the people, the singing. And we had this ceremony where we were all given the pipe, and we all either smoked, or we just, allowed it to go past. But it was a peace pipe ceremony.
Everyone either smoked it or they put it to their forehead.
That's right.
And almost everybody smoked it, including me, including you.
Including me.
Yeah.
And right at the end, when it was time to separate this pipe, it wouldn't separate.
Okay.
But this was shortly after the millennium. It was 2000 and early in 2000 and something.
Not that it wouldn't separate. They had received from their master, Joseph Rael, because the last time they had done the ceremony in Israel, the stem broke in the bowl. There's there's a male part and a female part. The stem in the bowl, and at the end of a usual ceremony, you separate them. And the last time they had done ceremony in Israel, the stem broke in the bowl, which never happens. And Jean and John knew it had great meaning. And Joseph Rael, their great teacher, really great, he wrote a book called Being in Vibration, which I really recommend. Awesome. And he said that it was very significant that in the future it would no longer be separated because the time of separation is over.
But I didn't know that.
And so she had received a new pipe, which she had smoked the first time at that meeting, and she had the instruction that this pipe will not be separated. And because the time of separation is over. At least that's my understanding of the story. Maybe you remember.
Well, I didn't know that part of the story.
Okay.
But I'm trying to tell my aspect of it.
Please.
It was shortly after the millennium.
Yes.
But that millennium year for me was a most amazing year, because every time somebody said the word millennium, I started feeling this incredible energy. And I was beginning to feel that energy of oneness coming through with the word millennium. And I believe that word was a reminder. We all came with this knowledge that that is the beginning of returning to oneness.
Okay.
And here I am in this peace pipe ceremony, a couple of years afterwards, where the pipe wouldn't separate.
Well, they were instructed not to separate it.
But I didn't know that.
Okay.
I just saw it happening. And I realized, I also know, because I could feel the energy of oneness happening. And this is what I feel every time we dance. I've been aware 10 days almost before we have a dance. I know that in between my waking and sleeping, there's a group of people on the earth where we're going to dance, where we are already working with the earth and beginning to create this platform for whatever the universe is going to allow to happen.
What are you saying? They're a group of spirit?
No, not always spirit. I mean, people like me. I have recognized one or two people that I've seen dancing when I have observed while the dance is in progress, that we dance together before the actual dance.
In the dream time or whatever?
Yeah.
Okay.
And it was in the dance that you were in.
Which was the first dance in Israel.
Yeah.
You may be wondering how I danced, but...
you must tell the story, please. Tell how you danced.
Well, I would do my own thing. And there would be like a sacred pole in the middle. And everybody and all around the pole it would be divided into sections for each of the dancer. And you stay in your own section and you don't talk with anybody for the whole 3 days, almost 3 days. And you fast, no eating or drinking. And so I had my great helper, Suni, and another good friend, Eliyahu McLean, and they would take turns bringing me to the pole, which represented the center, or the sacred tree at the center of the universe, God, if you will. And they'd bring me close, and I would dance, and then they'd bring me back, and I would dance, and that's what everybody did, except I had a little help from my friends, as they say. And it changed my life, that experience. Anyway, continue.
Well, it is a life-changing experience.
Which you could get in on. I mean, they're doing these For the One dances in the U.S. all the time. If you just Google Gene White Eagle.
The Dance for the One.
Or Dance for the One.
Or Facebook. We have the Dance for the One has a site on Facebook.
Okay, For the One Dance, no? For the One Dance.
For the One Dance?
Or whatever, just check it out. And
I think it's For the One Dance.
They do dances all over America. North
Germany.
America. All over the world.
Yeah, all over the world.
Okay, getting back to this first dance in Israel. Okay. Yes, what did you want to say about that?
That the dancers bring everything into alignment, everything into together.
And there's live drumming. You have volunteers who come just to drum from the U.S. They pay their own way just to come and drum. You have volunteers, like Pearl has done many times, in the kitchen for when the fasting is over, and for the support staff. And anyway, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Go ahead.
That's okay. My first dance, I didn't even know what I was getting into. I was asked to come and help in the kitchen. And once I saw the first dance, then I was hooked. I think I've done actual dances, I think I've done about 13 actual dances.
You mean whether you're serving in the kitchen?
No. I have actually danced.
Actually danced?
Yeah. And then I have done other dances where I have been an elder, or I've only worked in the kitchen.
Or a guide. And the support staff is equally as important and equally blessed by the experience as the actual dancers.
Well, that's what it means to be in oneness.
Indeed.
And each year it gets stronger and stronger.
All around the world. And tell me, Pearl, tell me about this first dance in Israel. What was so special about it for you?
Well, for me, no, it was the second dance, because the first dance I spent the 2.5 days almost in the kitchen. I didn't know what you guys were doing.
Okay, fine.
I just knew it was an amazing place to be. It was the next dance that I got to dance.
And what did dancing do for you? Keep in mind, almost 3 days, no eating, no drinking. Well, a little herbal tea at the end of the night, just to help you relax into sleep.
Well, that is at the end of the dance. That's in the last stage. Oh, we were not supposed to say that.
Oh, I didn't know that.
No, it's not. It's mostly without.
Mostly.
But just you get a little bit of a boost.
No fanatics here, right? So anyway, go ahead.
But it's everything comes together. I have sat and I felt the trees dancing.
Oh.
I've heard the birds dance.
And spirits.
There are certain trees that are sentinels. I could feel that these trees are holding the space. There is no separation. The trees, the birds, the rocks, the stones,
and the
the fire, the water.
Yes, and you would see the ancestors, or not, would you? I mean, the spirit beings?
Yes, I could feel them and see them. And
okay.
Oneness is oneness. There is no separation, and we were. It's not the same anymore. But when I was a child, everything was separate. Nothing in my life was in harmony. Not even families, in oneness. Not even people. But as I say, when you work with the energy, you begin to realize that everything is in oneness. And it was through the Shema that I actually
the Shema Israel.
It was through that I had my
central
first
of Judaism.
That was when I had my first understanding of oneness.
Yes, it's all about oneness.
What happened was I decided I had no religion, and I decided that my children are not going to be brought up like that. They need a religion, and they can choose later what they wanted. So we used to go to shul.
Yeah.
But every time they said that Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, something within me, I can feel in an energetic thing.
I feel it.
It brings everything into oneness. But I didn't know that. I mean, I just knew I loved it. And one day we were saying the Shema, and everything disappeared.
Whoa.
And there was no separation. I was the seat I was sitting in. I was the body I was in. I was everybody in the room with me. I could feel the trees, and I could feel that the vastness of the earth. There was that was my first experience with total oneness.
Whoa. Whoa.
And I've experienced it sometimes sitting in a forest, where all of a sudden I'm sitting and there are the trees outside of me, but all of a sudden I am those trees.
Yes.
I am the earth. I am everybody that was around me. It hasn't happened to me that many times, but when it happens, you just know. So that is why when the millennium was coming through, I could feel everything moving into a state of oneness.
Okay. So, how does this connect with the blessing of your voice? And well, what is?
Okay.
I guess I understand. I mean, I guess slowly who you really are is starting to come through.
You know, there are so many things that keep us away from who we really are.
Yes.
We are taught on this planet that it's what you do and what you say and who you are and what you do that makes you who you are.
Yes, absolutely.
But when you actually come into the understanding that there is no separation, and it's not what you do that makes you the person you are, it's the person you are that makes you what you do.
Yes.
It's the consciousness.
It's beingness first.
It's the beingness first. And I don't know why I answered this question like that, but it just came through.
And in the second dance, especially the second dance, when you actually dance, this is what you got? You got this deeper understanding of oneness?
No, when I was not when I danced. When I danced, it's a totally different thing. But when I used to do what the eldering is, an elder holds the space.
Indeed.
So when I was the elder and I was holding the space, every dancer was part of me.
Ha ha ha.
The birds,
ha,
mean,
ha.
when the birds had a sound to them, they had an identity and they had a function in the dance. And the bird songs now are changing on the planet. Some of the birds are now incorporating two sounds.
I've been hearing the weirdest bird songs lately.
Yeah.
Okay.
But at that time,
And
the
sing
sounds
strangest
were,
birds.
the birds were singing songs like sweet, sweet who, sweet, sweet who, sweet, sweet who.
Very nice.
But then there was another bird that was singing cuckoo is dead, cuckoo is dead, cuckoo is dead. And then there was a sweet, sweet who. And in that second dance, I danced 1 week. I spent time in the same area in Rosh Pina during the week, and then I was at the second dance. And the whole time that I was in Rosh Pina, the bird sound that was so close to me was cuckoo is dead, cuckoo is dead. And I thought, now this is weird, because most of the birds were singing sweet, sweet too. And that was a dance, a very special dance, and that was the dance we danced for the Holocaust. That was the date we danced, that
Okay.
the first night of the dance was on the Day of Remembrance for the Holocaust. The week later, the first day of the dance, was the beginning of Yom Ha'atzmaut.
Independence Day.
Yeah.
So
And
why cuckoo is dead? What does that mean?
the Holocaust,
Yeah?
I mean the two sides of the coin,
Okay.
the destruction, the pain,
Okay.
and the joy of being.
Well, yes, the death.
But
Uh,
the second time,
okay.
after the week of me hearing cuckoo is dead, the birds would sing their song, sweet, sweet twoo. And when cuckoo is dead started singing, I could hear them.
Okay.
And what happened was, about a year after that, I picked up a newspaper in English about a group of people who were in the Holocaust. I don't think I've ever told many people about it. But a group of people who had been in the Holocaust decided as a group that they are going to let go the pain. And they're going to celebrate and remember without that terrible pain. Now, when I was a child and the war was on, somehow I emotionally was in the pain.
Okay.
I could feel people who came out of the camps. I mean, I was 6 or 7.
Indeed.
I could feel what they were going through, what they had gone through.
Yes.
I could feel their separation. I could feel their pain. So it was kind of amazing that I should be, when we were working on that energy of what had happened. We had Germans from Germany dancing with us
On the Holocaust Day.
on that on the Holocaust dance. The first
Yes.
one.
Yeah.
After we'd done those two dances, 5 people from Israel went to dance at the next dance in Germany. And what these dancers do,
That's the point I wanted to get to. What do they do?
these dancers balance the energy. They bring things into oneness. It's like when we have a horrific experience in our childhood, abuse or anything, the loss of a parent in a bad way, that memory is so ingrained within us that
Yes.
until we can work to release that memory,
Yes, and
we
forgive.
are stuck in a place where we cannot even find ourselves.
Indeed.
So the dancers work on a broader level in the same way.
Yes. Yes. That's my experience. And places are changed, and realities changed,
And the earth has changed.
and the earth has changed
Yeah.
after these dances. I've experienced that. We have no idea where this goes, what it does, but yet you could feel it. And
Well,
yes,
there are many ways. I mean, I had already been working with energy and in groups when the Berlin Wall still stood.
yes,
And in the group I was in, and I know many, many groups, used to send love to these places, the Berlin Wall, and where there was strife and countries that were at war.
yes.
People would send love and healing
As they do now. Yes.
as they do now. And what happens is, you see, when you talk oneness, you can't just talk one thing. The earth has their ley lines, and the ley lines take the energy to different parts of the earth.
Indeed.
And when the ley lines are blocked because of what's happening on the surface of the earth, the energy doesn't get to these places. Now, a dance opens up the ley lines.
Ah, yes.
And the ley lines open up through many things. People going, I mean, there are stories of people, groups of 4 people who went around the world whenever there was, when they were talking about peace. And they would hold the peace in the parts of the world. Now, the ley line in Germany opened up. And people were there, I know 4 people that were there praying almost at that same time for Germany and for what was happening there, because there were talks and, you know, it wasn't a good time. And then all of a sudden the wall came down. It didn't come down on its own.
No.
It came down from the love and the work.
Yes.
And I remember the harmonic convergence.
87.
In 87, I remember. I don't know how I was connected to it, but I mean, because of the work I do, I suppose. 40 people came together in a room. So I think it was Switzerland, I'm not 100% sure. And they said, we're not going to do this anymore. And that was the beginning of the harmonic convergence. And that was the beginning of the opening for many other people.
There's a lot of excellent research proving exactly what you say. It's known as the Maharishi effect, because the TM people would meditate in relatively big numbers, and crime rates would go down in the whole city of Washington, D.C. And everywhere they did it, in every city that they did it, when there's a certain critical mass of people meditating or praying for peace, you see big change in crime rates, in natural disaster-type problems, all kinds of, I mean, it's been validated over and over again.
Yeah.
So it's called the Maharishi effect. So, yes, we know about it. Yes.
But we don't put it all into oneness. It happens when we begin to make everything one. The Maharishi effect is not separate from what's happening in another place where somebody else is doing something else. It's bringing the things into oneness.
We are totally connected. Every
Yeah.
thought, every emotion goes out and affects. Okay. Now, Pearl, you want to talk about your work with children. You went to a dance in South Africa for the young people, isn't that right?
I was at the first World Youth Dance.
Okay.
Which is a miracle, because
I
I
bet.
live on a very small income, and I managed to be there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
It was
But your will is indomitable, and you wanted to go, and nothing would stop you. So in any case, what was the importance of the youth dance, and what do you want to say about the young people of today?
It's more than the youth dance. People talk about crystal children, and they talk about the crystal
The gold
children.
children, the indigo children.
Yeah, all these children.
And you work with children, right?
And I worked with children.
That's what you've done for many, many, many years.
I worked with many, many, many children. And I came to realize that, well, this is a big one.
I know.
Every child is whole, perfect, and unique. But because of the way we are taught to look at children and to judge, if a child doesn't conform to the normal, we have put him in a little box and we call him something and we try to work with him from an outside point of view.
Or we give him a chemical straitjacket, like Ritalin for supposedly hyperactive kids.
And what? Oh. So every child is perfect. But we come with our own built-in programs of what we ought to do, what you should do, what life should be like, what you should look like, and who you should be, and how you should work. The moment we put that kind of stress on a child, we have taken that child away from his uniqueness. Certain beings come to this earth not for themselves. They come to this earth so that we can understand ourselves. And they take on the problems that we need to actually be able to work with ourselves. I once landed myself up in a children's home with 80 children. And I reached a point where I was going through burnout. Burnout. I couldn't do it anymore. And what I understood is that each child carried something that I needed to work on myself.
Okay.
And I had a very exceptional experience. One of the children was stealing. And in this place where I worked, it was a different home at the time. In this place where I worked, they got this child to have to pay back. She wasn't allowed pocket money. She couldn't. She had to find ways to pay back the amount of money that she had stolen. And it was very difficult. And she was everything that ever got lost in that home, the children used to, and the teachers used to accuse her of stealing.
Yes.
When I stepped back and I looked at what was happening in her life, this was a 13-year-old with two other sisters, and the mother had had a breakdown. And this 13-year-old had taken the responsibility of now being mother for her two sisters, and she stole money.
Yeah.
But what everybody, including myself as part of the organization, was giving her was how bad she was and how no good she was. And one night, it was late at night, all the other kids were sleeping, and I was helping her make toffee apples so we could sell them at school so she could get some of the money.
Yes.
And I kind of maybe stepped out and I just was. I didn't have any judgments or anything. And I saw a picture of this child at the age of 18 months old, about. And she was naked and she was playing under a tap of water.
In your mind's eye, you saw the picture?
Well, I mean, that's how I see things in my mind's eye. It's like, I saw the same child.
Yes.
She wasn't 13, she was 18 months old, about, with incredible joy playing under this tap. But I queried myself, what have I got this for? What am I supposed to do with it? And my inner being said to me, tell her.
Oh.
So we were standing and talking and we were preparing things, and I turned around to her and I said, you know, I can almost see you as a little baby, and you were playing and you loved water, and you had blonde hair. She didn't have blonde hair at the time. You had these blonde curls and you were playing under this water of the tap and you were so happy. And that's all I told her. About 3 weeks later, this child came running off the school bus, and she said, Pearl, I don't know, but I'm so happy. I had been there for 3 months, and I was there on a 3-month trial, And I knew I couldn't take the stress of working there, so I stopped working there. And about 6 months later, I went back to see all my old friends, and I asked about this child. And they said, wow, you know, something magical has happened with this child.
Whoa.
She is doing well, she's not stealing, she's doing well at school. And I realized what I was allowed to do for this child was reconnect her
Whoa.
to who she is.
Whoa. Just by telling her that story.
Well, I awakened
And by
her
giving
memory.
her-
I've done it. I've been allowed to do this
You awaken
with many
memory.
children. You awaken the connection. It's like what's happening in the earth. We're going back to oneness. But when a child goes through trauma, or when a being goes through trauma, what happens is you separate it from the oneness. And you are what has been created for you, who you think you are.
Yes, indeed.
But if you can take that child and return him to the oneness, you have no reason to worry about him, because he will flow from the being he is into the oneness he is,
Yes.
to the teacher he is.
Yes.
And some of the most autistic children I've ever worked with have been my greatest teachers. I worked with a child who was, I mean, at the same time that Kaufman was working with his son Ron, I was working with this autistic child who was forced to wear a steel helmet.
Yeah, I know.
because
about
he hit his head
Yeah.
on the wall.
that. Oy.
And somehow, what I was inspired to do after the first 3 months that we were together, I was inspired actually to give him something to destroy. And I found a tin, a shiny tin, and that was the therapy. We would take the tin and put it underwater. I would call it the boom tin, and we would throw it, and he could stamp on it. But at that same time, he was teaching me telepathy.
Telepathy, okay.
Yeah, because we were having conversations
Oh, my.
without words.
My.
So many things happen, and it's all being part of the oneness.
I love the idea of helping them reconnect to memories before the trauma, before they fell ill. One of my favorite movies is a movie called Restoration with Robert Downey Jr. He plays a doctor in the 17th century, and he's working in a mental institution, a crazy house back then they would call it. And he understood, or they understood at this place, that they should help the patients reconnect to the time before they got sick. So they would dance around this maypole, and they would start playing music. And they were encouraged to dance and enjoy the music, to reconnect. It's a beautiful movie. To reconnect with that time when they knew joy, when they danced, when they had music in their lives. And I think that's key. Also in the Crimson Circle channels Saint Germain, he says people who are stuck in like nursing homes, the best thing you could do for them is give them drama plays to perform in. Let them act. You know, society has told them, you're old and you're washed up, and here you are in an old folks' home waiting to die. But if they could act, if they could play Hamlet or anything, and get them out of this picture that has been thrown upon them, and start imagining themselves as something else, and understanding that who they are is something else. It's the most healing thing. Just letting them act and perform.
I can tell you a story that has happened for me in exactly the same way. I was working in a place where there were a lot of children with special children. I mean, to me, they were all special. And many of them couldn't talk. And we had a group of young people from the university who came to volunteer. And one year they took the group of these kids that we couldn't connect to or talk to or get to do anything else but what they were doing all the time. And they did I think it was Hanukkah, a Hanukkah concert. And young people, I mean, these were teens and upper teens.
Yes.
People who had never spoken for us were singing songs. And I realized that these young people came without limitations. And they really got these youngsters to open up and do things that they had never done before.
Yes. You're fair. Beautiful. I know, Pearl, that you've worked with a lot of kids, and that magic has happened in your like this girl in the water faucet, and that you've been an instrument to bring healing to so many kids, and it must be very rewarding.
It is. But I'll tell you a wonderful story that happened to me in one of the dances. Actually, it wasn't in a dance. It was when Jean and John were doing the peace concerts.
Okay.
And we were all in a room together at my niece's place in Rosh Pina. And I didn't know anybody in the room. And I was sitting next to a young woman. And right at the end of the dance, we were standing up and singing our own song.
The spontaneous
singing.
Sacred song, that
Yeah.
the soul song, yeah.
But in my head there was like a voice and said, speak to her. This young woman next to me, she's pregnant. You know, you argue with yourself. And I was saying, well, what do I have to do that for? And we're singing, and the song's beautiful, and she doesn't look pregnant. And again it says to me, speak to her because she's pregnant.
Oh my.
Tea time came. We were having tea, and I was being pushed by my inner being. Speak to her. What's wrong? Speak to her. I'm not going to do it. You know, I'm not going to speak to somebody. I'm not going to. All the arguments. But right at the end, I couldn't help myself, and I said, please forgive me. I don't often do a thing like this. But tell me something. Are you pregnant? And she took her head and she put it on my shoulder.
Oh my God.
She burst into tears.
Oh my God.
And she whispered in my ear,
Jesus Christ.
yes, and today I decided to keep the child.
Jesus Christ.
As
God.
she said that, I could feel this incredible energy on my left-hand side, because I don't know life right from left. And this
That is
energy
your
was
right
like...
side. That's your right
Okay,
side.
so it's in the side where I was... And this energy was right there, and it was like a fountain of energy. And I heard these words in my head.
My goodness.
Speak to my mother. No, not speak to my mother. God. Now that I'm within my mother, ask her, speak to her and ask her to sing her song for me.
Jeez.
When she holds me, oh God, I get goosebumpy when I tell this story even, because I know he's with me, and there are times he tells me who to tell.
Oh.
Now, this youngster, he's now about 12,
Okay.
and the word said, when she holds me in her arms, let her sing her song to me.
Ah, my.
And when I lose my way, let her sing her song to me.
My God.
Yeah.
Jeez.
And
Oh,
I
wow.
heard from people who were in that group that he is the most amazing being. He is wonderful.
Why?
And he's very, very, very special.
Okay. Pearl, God bless you for such a beautiful...
I've even got a better one.
All right. I can't imagine anything better. Well, let's hear it.
My mother was dying of cancer, and I was in Israel, and I was at the Tachana Merkazit in Petah Tikva.
Which is the central bus station in a little city called Petah Tikva.
Okay.
Yes.
And I was standing waiting for this bus, and there were two people facing me. And they looked really poor. They looked as though they were virtually living in the street. But the woman was holding this amazing being, this beautiful child with black curly hair and the biggest eyes you've ever seen. And he looked at me, and we had this incredible connection, and I was looking at him. But I still didn't know what I know today, and I got into the pain. Oh, you poor child, you have chosen such a hard life, and I love you, and I bless you. And I'm standing there and, blessing this little one. And, of course, he stayed with me and the two people, and I thought, then I realized when they were getting on the bus that both people had impaired eyesight.
Okay.
And with the way we judge, I judged them, but I felt the energy, but I judged them.
You judge them as what? As being sad?
As being sad, as being, I don't know.
Poor people.
Yeah, poor people,
Yeah.
I came to Israel after my mother passed away. I came to live in Israel. And I was walking down, it was a stera, like a street with a garden in the middle. And people were walking towards me, and there was this child of about 4 running in front of these two people. And I looked and I realized those are the two people that I'd seen at that time at the bus station. But they were different.
Years had gone by.
4 years had gone by.
Okay.
And there was this child running in front of them, and they were totally different. And again, I connected with this child, and I blessed him. He might have been more than 4. It's hard to tell,
Okay.
But I blessed him, and I said, wow, this is amazing. And about 6 years ago, not even 6, it was about 4 years ago, I was telling the story to somebody about, the way I judged and what I thought. And this person looked at me and she said, I know who it is.
Oh my God.
He's now a young man.
Oh my.
And you know what he does? He takes people that have no sight, and he takes them in the desert. He's a
guide.
A guide. He changed his whole environment through the being who he is, and now the rest of his life he is working to help people.
Beautiful. Wow.
Isn't it an amazing story? But the way the universe put me in 3 different places, so I could. But this happens sometimes.
So you can tell this story right now to hopefully as many people as possible.
So there's no judging, and you can't feel sorry for a being who has chosen a difficult situation. You just have to bless them and love them and connect them to who they are, so that they can remember not to get lost in the maze of what we build around things.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, Jerry and Esther Hicks, who channel Abraham. Abraham says in a cassette called The Law of Allowing, which I have, when you see somebody who has a considerable challenge to overcome, whether it's sickness or who knows what, injury or whatever, and you feel pity for them, you're not helping them. Actually, what you're doing is you're strengthening their own tendencies, like we all have, to feel sorry for themselves. You add to their vibration of difficulty. But if you look at those same, instead of feeling pity for them, or empathy or pity, and you are who you are, and you show them how good life is, and you allow yourself to be who you truly are in their presence, then you uplift them. And pity only does the opposite of maybe what we're thinking it does. So by law of attraction, it's just a negative vibration that will add to their own negativity. So we want to uplift. We want to. All right. So. Okay, Pearl. Amazing stories.
Yeah.
I'd like to get into a little bit about Abdi, maybe, and anything else you want to add before we conclude. Who is Abdi, and what has he meant for you?
Wow. Abdi is a healer.
That's Abdy, and you can Google him.
Abdi has a site called Abdi, and if you want to know more about him, you just put into the computer abdi.info.
Okay.
I think I first met Abdi when I was going through a really hard time physically. And we were in a group in a big hotel. And he had come with a group of people from all over the world, from South America, from Australia, and they were coming through and doing a tour of Israel.
Right.
And we had this meeting in this big room. And what Abdi does is that nobody can really know what Abdi does, because
he's maybe the most amazing healer I've met. I've met amazing ones. So that's a hard statement, but he's really up there with the very best.
What I think, and I think that he says this on his site.
And it comes from total light and love. I recommend you go to the site. Yes.
What he does is, I think he allows us to let go through the strength of his energy, and we can experience whatever we need to experience to heal.
Yes.
And he says something very beautiful. He says that no experience, if you don't even feel him, is an experience anyway.
Certainly.
Have you ever heard him say that?
I don't remember.
Yeah.
But
because some people say, what is this all about? You just have to just allow whatever happens to happen. And he said to me once, he said, whenever I work, wherever it is in the world, you can link in with me at that time.
Which you do.
Which I do. And I've had experiences as if I was in the room with him.
You've seen the room.
I've seen the room, and I've seen the people who are on either side of me.
And he's seen you, has he not?
I don't know about that.
But also, my work with him has changed the world, changed my life, and he comes from total light and love, and he doesn't make any money from these trips here. Just covering his expenses. That's it, and anybody can go, and it's worth checking out. You had an experience in Costa Rica with a great light worker. Do you want to say anything about what happened in Costa Rica?
Well, it's very hard to know what happened in Costa Rica because we all hung out. People from all parts of the world, we would hang out, we would eat together, we would sleep together, all in one room on an open, it's an open stage with no walls, just a roof to protect you from the rain.
I just want to say Pearl was in such shaky condition when she left for Costa Rica. I was wondering how, in God's name, she would survive it, and if she would at all. She was with a cane, I think, maybe. I mean, you were really.
Well, I was stuck on the roof. I couldn't even get down to the bathrooms, which were at the bottom of the hill. I mean, I had to bath where they washed the dishes. And when the rain came for 5 days, we were stuck.
And Pearl, she used her last penny to get there. Really, it was incredibly. It demonstrated this tremendous strong will in her condition to raise the money and to get there. And everybody thought, my God, is she crazy? And, we really knew she wasn't crazy because every time she does one of these things, she comes back totally
stronger and better
and rejuvenated.
Rejuvenated.
So what was that? What do you want to say about that time in Costa Rica, if anything?
I had the most amazing connection to the earth.
Yes.
We had a volcano in front of us.
Yes.
We had pure virgin forest around us.
Yes. Rainforest. Yes.
Kind of, yeah. And it's, just to get there was difficult. But you can't describe anything like that in words because there aren't words. The feeling of oneness again, for me, I don't know, I'm so stuck on oneness. Because I feel that the minute I separate from that oneness, then I'm out of alignment, I'm out of truth, I'm out of my connection.
Whoa. Wow.
And it's in all ways, it's in my thoughts, it's in my everyday life, it's in how I wake up in the morning. I need to wake up and connect to the oneness if I want a good day.
Okay.
If I'm in a bus, if I really want to enjoy myself, I just connect to the oneness and the oneness of all the people around me.
Whoa.
I found that I can sit at a bus stop and I sing to the earth and I become connected.
Whoa.
It's brought me my joy, it's brought me life, it's brought me love. I don't need anything anymore. It's when I'm not connected, then life is hard and life is difficult. But the minute I start connecting, even through the singing, or through the feeling of the earth, or to the heart of another person, I'm so powerful. I can be who I want to be. I can do what I want to do. I can climb mountains.
Yeah, indeed. Indeed. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, anything else you'd like to say, Pearl?
Well, when I wasn't able to be in the oneness, I used to have my mantra as the Shema.
Okay.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. And every time I bring myself into that oneness, I feel complete.
When a Jewish person, before dying, when they know they're about to die, it is the tradition to say that prayer. If you have the awareness about you to do it. And there is incredible power in those, it's all coded in those words and in the spaces between the words.
Definitely. Definitely.
Also Jesus mentions, they asked Jesus somewhere in the New Testament, Rabbi, what are the most important parts of the Torah or something like that? And as I recall, it's written, he says there, love thy neighbor as thyself. And the other one that he says is, Hear, O Israel, the Lord is our God, the Lord is one. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Israel in the sense of who we all really are. Straight. It means straight to God, Yisrael, which is who we really all are. That's our birthright. Okay. Anything else, Pearl?
Well, you don't have to be Jewish.
But that's my point here.
I know, I'm just
That's
saying
my
it again.
point.
It's the connection to the oneness, no matter what you feel the oneness is.
Indeed.
Whether it's the earth, whether it's somebody you love, whether it's the trees, whether it's the animal that serves you, we're all one. We're all part of that oneness.
Indeed. And what a level of wisdom and achievement you've come to get to such a beautiful living connection with this understanding.
Yeah.
So anyway, Pearl, thank you. It's been
Thank you very much too, Eliyahu.
okay. And thank you all.